They say there is no greater joy than becoming a parent. They say this before you've even officially become a parent. There is no greater joy, they tell you, and you believe it, even though your back is aching, your ankles are swollen, and you cannot see your feet. You believe that the joy will come with the baby. And then the baby comes and they say it again. There's no greater joy. Even though you can't remember the last time you slept through the night or brushed your hair or finished a sentence. You wonder if maybe you should tell all prospective parents that if they can manage to think of another way to find joy, they should. But somehow you manage to get through it. The colic, the teething, the terrible twos, the even more terrible threes, the teenage years from 9 to 29. There really is no greater joy. That's what they say, and I still believe it, because joy is a long game in parenting and in life. Joy isn't about everything being perfect, because it never will be. Joy is about dreaming of a future and the potential it holds, the beauty that might come, whether we see it or not. Joy is the tune hummed by the gardener, planting early seeds in the spring ground, anticipating an abundant harvest, even though the current landscape is bleak and muddy. The seeds will sprout, the trees will bear fruit, the children will grow into fine human beings. Joy is the song I sang as a new parent, even on those hard days when it seemed we would be stuck in the toddler trenches forever. I literally sang to my girl all day long. It brought joy to us both, and she learned language for the world she was discovering. We had songs for our bike rides, song about the animals we'd see on our walks, and songs for our long hikes in the park. We sang while we planted the garden, skipped stones into the creek, or dug for worms in the backyard. And if we weren't outside and singing, we were reading. We'd bicycle to the library every week and borrow stacks of books and read them dozens of times. There was one little shelf of French books in the children's section, and I think we must have read each of those hundreds of times. One favorite was a colorful book about the ocean, and I loved learning the French names of the sea creatures along with her. I wanted my daughter to grow up bilingual, so I read to her, just like I sang to her in French. Why bother, some people wondered. No one in California speaks French. How pointless. Still, that was my song. So I sang it to her with joy. And just a few weeks ago, 21 years into this parenting project, I got to visit my daughter in French Polynesia, and my joy was complete. She was glowing in her role as a budding scientific researcher, finding as much joy in her sea urchins as she had once found in her worm collection. All those hours observing and falling in love with the natural world had shaped her future as an ecologist. Also, she was navigating life quite successfully in French. What a joy to hear echoes of our old songs in her adult life. This girl who had grown up loving both biodiversity and human diversity, becoming a loving steward of both. My husband, the ecologist, and I, trained as a French teacher, realized it is true what they say about parenting. There is no greater joy. So all of this comes to mind as I consider Mary's song from the first chapter of Luke. It's the song Mary sang to prepare herself for the most challenging project of her life, bearing a child conceived without the help of the man to whom she was betrothed. Leaning into this unexpected plot twist, she knew she would endure great shame and much pain as she brought disgrace to her family and her fiancés as well. Also, she was aware that she was bringing an innocent child into a terrible world, impoverished Galilee under Roman occupation. And if the angel's words were true, her child would bear the added burden of responsibility for helping his suffering people. It must have been daunting for a teenage girl, don't you think? Uncertain whether she would have any support at all from her family or her intended. Faced with so much uncertainty, what did Mary do? She sang. She sang a song proclaiming God's greatness, declaring that her spirit was rejoicing in the goodness of her merciful God. She recalled all that God had already done, bolstering herself with the history lessons of her people. God had always delivered them from misfortune, and God would surely continue doing so, even through her child. How marvelous, how strange, how unlikely. And yet there could be no greater joy. This she believed. Mary and her cousin Elizabeth shared their joy as Mary sang her song to her older cousin, and both celebrated the incredible fact that both of them were to become mothers to children instrumental in bringing God's salvation to the world. I can picture them singing their songs of great joy as they went about their tasks, cooking the meals, weaving the cloth, sewing the little clothes their babies would need. Nothing like a baby to give us hopeful joy and a reason to sing. The thing about a song is that once you have started singing it, it is hard to stop. I know because of all those songs I sang once upon a time. I sang them for years. My daughter grew up knowing the songs I had sung to her, even in the womb. Long after she had outgrown them, I still sang them to her. And so I imagine that Mary continued singing her song, the song glorifying God for the wonderful things God had done. And I imagine that Jesus grew up knowing this song by heart. I'm sure he did because he lived it. Jesus' life work was to fill the hungry with good things, to lift up the lowly, to comfort the afflicted and afflict the comfortable, and to teach others to do likewise. It was a song he had grown up hearing at Mary's knee, the cradle song that shaped his life and his future. What joy Mary must have felt seeing her adult son living the life for which she had prepared him. I wonder if she hummed that old song every time she thought of him. Her joy must have been complete, even knowing that his life would not be easy nor his death. He was the fulfillment of the old dreams, the flourishing of the seeds Mary had planted so long ago. She had done her part to glorify God, and her son was doing his part. There's no greater joy. Mary's song was her way of naming her intention, of plotting out a direction for her life and her son's life. And even though it was a difficult direction, she sang her song with determined joy, for she understood that joy is the antidote to despair. Like generations of women before her whose songs are recorded in the Bible, singing gave Mary the courage to keep going, remembering that God's goodness endures forever, giving all of God's people reason to rejoice, even as an act of resistance. In the First Advent in Palestine, theologian Kelly Nikondeha writes, grafted into generations of women practicing liberation through subversive songs and solidarity, Mary was formed by song, and then she composed song, creating a legacy, weaving herself into the unwritten genealogy of women who birthed the sons and daughters of Israel. She came to see her place among her people, singing, from now on, all generations will call me blessed. And as she sang of God's goodness toward her, she sang also of generations before who met God's mercy. And she sang for generations to come. Hers was no solitary song, but a prophetic chorus born of solidarity with many matriarchs and with Emmanuel, working salvation even now through her. Our songs connect us to our past, our present, and our future. And that is why I keep singing, even with children who are not mine through birth. I continue to sing songs of God's love and grace, songs of hope and joy, old songs, new songs, and sometimes songs I make up from my own head. And I teach them to the children in the care of our church because I want them to have the joy of knowing that they are part of God's ongoing love story with the world. I sing to the children so that they will know, no matter how hard things get, they are part of a long line of God's people who are striving to make things better. I want them to know songs of strength and resilience like Mary's song, the one that inspired Jesus' ministry and his commitment to changing the world. My friends, all of us have a song. Even if you can't carry a tune in a bucket, you have your piece of wisdom to share, and to share joyfully so that the next generation will feel inspired and encouraged to continue the work that has given you purpose, the work of building God's kingdom here on earth, the work of loving our neighbors as ourselves, the work of caring for all of God's beloved children, all creatures great and small, the work of loving this world that God so loved, and participating in its salvation, its healing, its wholeness. No matter how you sing that song, keep singing it, and sing it loudly enough that others can hear it, be inspired by it, and learn from it, especially the children. Let them hear us sing, for there is no greater gift we can give than teaching our song to the little ones and shaping the future, their future, with a song of joy. There really is no greater joy. May this joy be yours this third Sunday of Advent.